sometimes New York City holds us back. And the way we think in New York City holds us back. I do feel that way. So, a couple of different examples. One, even thinking about this conversation as an alt-labor conversation, when you've got the two largest private sector industries in the United States here. These are the two largest private sector industries in the United States. We're not talking about a marginal workforce. We're talking about the largest employers in the US, and sometimes the concept of immigrant workers and alt-labor, as we've often thought of these things in New York City, constrains us from understanding that we're actually talking not about an alt-labor, but about just labor. These are the largest workforces. And like Carrie, Rock actually was never exclusively an immigrant organization, and now we're not even a majority immigrant. We're by far not a majority immigrant organization nationally. We're largely led by people of color and working people in the restaurant industry nationally. And I have felt that that kind of imagery of this is largely immigrant workers, this is largely excluded workers or marginalized workers, ends up not helping people understand, or even ourselves understand, the potential of the scale and the power that we could have if we're not thinking about this as marginalized immigrant excluded workers, but instead thinking about ourselves as we are the largest workforce in America and we demand change now. And so that new frame outside of New York has allowed us to realize that a lot of the things that we had been fighting for in the past were actually not ambitious enough by far, that we were fighting for half of what we really needed and wanted. So for example, if you'll let me go there, on the tip minimum wage fight, for so many years here we had been talking about just getting tipped workers included in the minimum wage fight. Just give us 50%, 60%, give us 70% of the overall minimum wage. And going to other parts of the country and talking to workers and developing an understanding that 70% of tipped workers in America are women, which is very different from New York City, where 70% of restaurant workers are men. So, in the rest of the country, you're talking about, and the rest of the state even, New York State, you're talking about women who work at the IHOP and the Applebee's and Denny's and Red Lobster, and earning poverty wages and experiencing the worst sexual harassment of any industry in the United States because they're living off their tips. And so developing a whole new framework that no woman in America should ever have to rely on tips for any portion of her income, not for 50% or 20% or 10%. No portion of anybody's income should be tips, because tips are not wages. No consumer in New York City or anywhere else thinks of tips as wages. So why the F are we fighting for 50 or 60 or 70% when we should be fighting for 100%? And so that has led us to huge things, not just a federal debate, but frankly, very large ballot initiatives with C4 and PACs and these kinds of things, where we're raising millions of dollars to eliminate the lower minimum wage altogether in large states, and still having this conversation in New York City about could we even ever get tipped workers included in a minimum wage increase? So sometimes I feel like something about us feeling, and I know I was a New Yorker for a very long time, that we are the center of the universe and we are the leaders on everything progressive and everything that changes, that we founded the worker center movement, is just not true, first of all. And second of all, in some ways holds us back from learning about our true power, our true potential, our true ability to completely change the narrative and stop thinking of ourselves as excluded or marginal or this little population, but frankly, the main population of the United States.
It's like women as a special interest.
Women as a special, or immigrants. And I just want to say, I really give a lot of credit to Rinku Sen, who's been a real mentor to me over the years, and who wrote a book about our work called The Accidental American. And in it, she used this frame of explicit but not exclusive. So I am not saying that immigrant workers haven't led this movement. They led our movement. We were immigrants. We started this movement. But the point is to be explicit about race and immigrant leadership, and not exclusive about race and immigrant leadership.